We're going to look at variables in Swift. So Swift has something called auto assignment. So that means if you just type var and then something, or you name it the variable something and set it equal to, let's say, 24, Swift will automatically recognize that 24 is an integer and then assign the something variable to an int. So then if we're going to go down here, you can always just say number equals 24, or let's say 34. But if you want to make sure that a variable is set to a specific type, then you can say variable, let's say num2 colon and then int, and then you can set it to something. So this is just essentially declaring this number 2, it's going to be an integer. You can do the same thing with a double. So if double is just like a number that has decimal places. So there you go. So strings is pretty similar. You can just say string equals string. You can also say verse string 2. Make sure that the type is of string, and then set it equal to string. Also, if you want to declare a variable that will exist in the future, so essentially it doesn't have any value right now, you can say, let's say name. Like we know that someone's going to have, or this variable is going to be someone's name, but we don't know what that is yet because we're waiting for it from a server or waiting for the user to type it in. You can add the little question mark on there. So what this means is essentially it's creating a variable called name and then just immediately setting it to nil, which is essentially nothing. It's the same thing as writing this here. And then later on, if you want to say name is equal to Fred, it will then set that variable to Fred, or whatever the name is. So you want to use this question mark to set it as an optional value. And then you can declare arrays. And for arrays, you can specify the type of element in the array. So if it's going to be like an array of like strings, so this could be like colors, for example. Right? You can also, like I said before, you can just declare it, or you can just say there's an array, and then just set it immediately equal to something, like this is an array of integers. So Swift is just automatically assigning this as an array of integers. And then of course, if you want to set an array that will exist, let's say maybe it's users, and this is going to be an array of, let's say, user IDs. You can set it to, or add the question mark on there, and that's just saying it's an optional value. You could also just set an empty array too. So the difference between setting it to empty versus adding the question mark is this is going to equal nil, whereas the other one is going to equal just an empty array, right? So there is actually a difference between an empty array and nil. So you're going to have to make sure that your code is set up to handle that. So dictionary, this is key value pair. So for example, let's say you have a name, and that name is going to be equal to George, and then you can put a comma, and let's say age, age is going to be equal to 34, and favorite color equal to red. Oops. So this is how you can declare a dictionary. And you've got all these values in here, so you can format it. So essentially you have the key, and then you have the value. Key, value. And you can see that the values can be different. Oops. Yeah, so I want to just say that the value here is going to be of type any. because we have strings here, but we also have integers here, or an integer for the age. So what this says is the key is always going to be a string, and the value could be any. So then if you want to get that value out at some point, like, hey Dick, let's say age, it's going to want us to cast it as an integer. And let's just set a variable to that. Variable age as int. So this is just saying that this right here, this value within the dictionary should be an integer. And you can do the same thing for, oops. You can do the same thing for these other values, favorite color, name, all that kind of stuff. So then you could print this off or display it wherever you wanted to. Anyways, so that's the main variable types. Of course, you can also declare all of these as lets or constants. So if you have an array that's not going to change, or a dictionary that's not going to change, or integer, string, any of that, then you want to declare it as a let. So, and Swift will automatically give you warnings about that or recommendations to change it. So yeah.